Hey, everybody. This is Carey, and
Kyle.
we are from OC4 Venture Studio in sunny Costa Mesa, California. And this is the very first recording in our new media room that we have just set up here in the Venture Studio. And Kyle and I wanted to get together and chat a little bit about why we even did this.
Yeah.
So we've been here for a few months.
Before we get in that, let's talk
Yeah.
about the elephant in the room, which is my red hat.
Yes.
So for those of you who are wondering what my hat is, and I actually just turned 40. Just got
Happy
back.
birthday.
Thank you very much. Just got back from Cabo. Actually, Carrie and I were at Cabo. Just got back yesterday, made it through. It was kind of scary over there. But this hat is a gift from Mr. Ransom to the left of me. And just wanted to preface with that. And we go. No political ties here.
You might look closer to 40 with the hat on than
So.
without it. So
Yeah. So I might
you're making 40 look great.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
it. I might take it off pretty soon. But anyways.
So while we're talking about before we get into the studio, I thought it was bizarre being out of the country given what's happened here in the last 4 or 5 days, and it seemed like we were not that far away, obviously a couple hours away by plane, and it felt a world away.
Yeah.
I felt like the media did a fantastic job of showing a world on fire, and we could not have been farther away from it in Mexico. And it just gave me a lot of time to think about perspective and how important perspective is. And I think we as here, as entrepreneurs, but also leaders in the business community here, have to make sure we're helping people navigate that, because it could overwhelm everyone to buy into that craziness that's around us.
And so for me, it reinforced, besides just turning 40, which is a big milestone, it also reinforced what we're doing here with the Venture Studio, with the community, about truly giving back and at the same time creating an ecosystem. So I think that gives a good segue into kind of why we did this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of kick it off and then
sounds good.
Roll with
and
it.
Oh, by the way, we're going. This is going to be largely unscripted, and it's us just trying to be helpful.
Yeah. So we, when Carey and I met a couple years ago, and in the circle, right? Carey knows a lot of people, has a pretty huge network, probably one of the biggest networks I've seen, just around. And we were talking, and at the time, Cloud Virga was growing. And we were just talking about the ecosystem here and how disconnected Orange County is, and I would say even a large part of SoCal, right, including LA and San Diego. And so we start talking to people and kind of get a feel for like there's something missing here as far as a kind of relevancy to early stage startups around software, around technology, and I've been seeing a ton of entrepreneurs who come up to me like, hey, how did you raise capital? What do you think about my product? Is this something I should do? And that was happening more and more frequent. And that I was like, boy, there's a lot of amazing talent just in Orange County, but I was getting some from LA as well. There's a lot of amazing talent. And I just kept on hearing over and over how they just get either turned away, or that the people and some of the organizations and stuff in Orange County, it wasn't really relevant in a lot of the things that they were talking about. And it was just super hard, for them to get capital. And again, we're talking early stage, right? So we're talking first money in usually. And B, it was, again, a relevancy thing. And so Carey was experiencing the same thing. And we started talking about this, like there's a void here in Orange County to really start driving towards how do we get in early on these companies and help them become very product-centric companies, and solve big problems. But what does that mean, right? Well, a lot of people talk about that. But how do they have a product that fits the market? Is it worth building? Is it worth doing? and can they sell it? And so I think that kind of started the journey for us, and we started doing more and more digging. We started talking about, okay, do we want to be a fund? Do we want to do something else? Is this an accelerator? And we started continuing on that journey for 6 to 8 months, learning about what it is that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we came up with this model that says, okay, well, we don't want to just be in the fund business. We know we need to be able to have funds, obviously, from raise capital and have some funds to disperse to these companies. But the real jewel and the gem is the studio, which is not just an accelerator, not just an incubator. It's more of we're kind of going alongside founders to really help them grow and scale their businesses. And I've experienced this firsthand, and I know Carey has, and many have out there. Most startups fail. And one of the reasons is because there's many reasons, but some of the big reasons is that the capital is just not enough. And so we believe that it's a team sport, that you need to be able to have hands-on approach to in the early stages, which is so critical to really be successful. And you want to just kind of add to that a little bit more?
Sure. I agree with, of course, all that you said. When I describe what we're doing, people they like to say, oh, it's an incubator. Oh, it's an accelerator. It's not. In that it's what we believe we can be the best Carey and Kyle that we are, that we can have the biggest, broadest impact here in Southern California,
yep,
in the startup community, and we can bring together the best people that we know who also have similar thoughts and goals that we do, which is, how do we build more great companies here? And, truly great. And great could be by...
Doesn't have to be like $1 billion unicorn.
Great.
Just great.
Just great. And great, exactly. It's not just by revenue or value, but it solves a problem that's real. It gives a great learning and growth opportunity to the people involved in it. It delights customers. It focuses the attention on the right things. And I think we've both experienced so many distractions that occur in the course of building a business, and often they're people related.
For sure.
And when you get great people with the right values and right cultural orientation together, you can do great things.
Yep.
And frankly, it's just easier to do great things. And I think that's been a core part of where you and I came together and have a tremendous amount of focus and attention. And I think the founders that we've found so far that really resonate with what we're doing, they agree with that, or at least can be convinced by us to agree with that. And so that's who we're looking for. And we see it in the early traction, the partnerships that we're forging with them as we decide to invest. And invest from our perspective isn't just capital. It's invest everything that we have emotionally,
yep,
and capability wise. And when I describe to people out in the market that we really look at the Venture Studio as a capability center designed to bring the best that we can possibly pull together to surround the founders that we decide to partner with all the capability, all the love, all the support they can possibly get, it resonates with people when they think about their own entrepreneurial journey, and in many cases pulling together people who they could just find.
Yeah, but the right people, right time, right?
That's right. Oh, and that's critical,
so
right?
critical,
you can get you can get
a great head of product or a great engineer or whatever, but it can be wrong time, and that's happened to me more times than not. And so the way that I look at the studio is, we call it OC4 for a reason, right? Obviously, we're in Orange County. Doesn't mean we're limited to Orange County, but our whole goal is SoCal.
Yes.
We think Orange County is ripe for, I would say, for disruption from this old oligarchy kind of real estate, old mentality, which isn't bad, but there's a huge ecosystem here for software startups, for people who want to solve big problems leveraging technology.
Mm-hmm.
But the the four C's, right, are that we created, the OC4, right? The four C's are, capital. Obviously, you need capital. Coaching. We don't like to call, like I say, advising is a bad word, because a lot of venture funds, a lot of people have advisors. I mean, I raise capital and we've had advisors, and I don't really. It seems very distant. It's like, okay, you give me this, call me once in a week for an hour, we can have a conversation, right? We like to get really hands-on. So I think the coaching for us goes a lot deeper, right? Which is why we'll talk about some of the people that we surround these companies with. And then collision of talent. So that's kind of the right people at the right time. I can't tell you how many companies I've seen, and I know you've seen, that have hired the wrong person at the wrong time, right person at the wrong time, right? And which can, cause issues. That's happened to me, right? Absolutely. Many times.
And I'd also say collisions with the right opportunities.
Yeah, that's right.
As well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of discussions with our companies about who are the right partners, and it could be worth chasing a really big customer right now, or that could be a huge distraction that you're just not ready for.
Well, and some of our partners. I mean, one of the companies that we invested in, right, with cheese. I mean, some of the partners and stuff that we've helped with Ken and the team. Sure. I mean, it's been huge. So for sure, collision is not just on the talent, but also on the partnerships. And then the last one's really the community, which, to be honest with you, can be one of the most important ones. And absolutely. And that community piece. And when you talk to a lot of successful founders and just people who've built companies, community is a huge piece. And I know when we built CV here and we started here, I got a lot of pressure from, hey, go to the Bay Area, even go to Texas. And we stuck to our guns here and we wanted to stay here. But hasn't been a lot of community support. And we want to change that. And so that's why we're doing stuff like this as well too. So those four C's coming together is really what I would say the studio is about. Right. And, beyond just those four C's, instead of just having coaching, one of the unique things, we like to say something, get shit done. That's kind of our mantra here a little bit. We believe you can get it. We have to get into the weeds because building a company is not easy. And so we've actually surrounded these founders with some really heavy hitters, including ourselves, to be able to help them from a product, technology, data science standpoint. We're going to add more to that team. Design,
growth. And, as I describe it, I think about, you and I, we're starting OC4 as a startup.
Yeah.
We're
startups helping start with.
Yeah. We're bringing all these folks in to help us and also help the companies that we want to
and they wouldn't be able
become great.
Yeah. They wouldn't be able to get these people in a sense, right? Because these are some pretty, they can get jobs anywhere. And so these people are seeing like, okay, there's an opportunity here to help mold and shape these companies on the right foundation to help them grow and scale quickly, either for their exit or for their next round, which is great. And that's what's super exciting about this for me is if it was just capital, and I know we've talked to several people who are like, well, if it's just capital, we're not the right partner. There's a whole lot more that you need. And it's funny, I was actually talking to a couple of people last week, and they've started successful companies and sold before and exited. And like, I would still use it. I would use the services just because past success as a founder, whether you had an exit or a sale, whatever it might be, does not necessarily mean future, success as well.
Yeah, not always. I mean, certainly, if we're reflective on the experiences and the bumps and bruises, hopefully we make fewer mistakes the next time. But, we also both know that the pace of change is so rapid that it's hard for any one of us to keep up. And that to me is a key part of the whole community element of this, is that this is a safe place. If you haven't thought about or built software in a few years or 10 years or what have you,
you're out of the loop.
You may be out of it, but you can come back, if you're willing to learn. And, we're trying to provide an open, safe environment where people can learn, and that's why we're going to do things like this, and that's why we're going to
get up to date, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and so we've talked about this before. It's when we started CV, we were in data centers, right? And you technically had AWS coming up, you had Azure coming up, and now it's like you can't imagine a world, right, without it.
That's right.
And so it's technology is changing so fast. Code is changing so fast, and it's getting easier and easier. And so those are things that, because it's changing, we want to be able to stay ahead of that curve, A, for ourselves and for the community, and B, make sure that founders are. Because you're right. I mean, someone who started a company 10 years ago and like, listen, I wrote in C# and I did this and this, and today, you like, I don't know if I'm going to use. That's pretty old school, right? And
Sure.
and so things, it's amazing how much the rate of change is happening.
Well, and it's also, I think our job is to help people focus on
Yeah.
the most important things, which it may not be the tech stack,
No.
because
It's the product.
the tech stack is, in many cases, is, as you and I talk about often, like, oh, that's technically, I mean, it's work. Writing software, building software centric products is work, but we know we have great folks around who can do that, and we can manage making sure that it's done well.
The right way.
The really the key thing is determining, is this a product that people will adopt, that people will love, that people will pay for, that you can go into a likely competitive market and win,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and that it's big enough to warrant everyone's time and attention. Is this an opportunity that's worth, you mentioned this earlier, is this an opportunity worth pursuing? And I think that's a big part of our job, is to help people navigate those questions and provide some additional counsel and feedback on that, right? We've had people who are thinking way too big. We've had people that are thinking way too small. And I think, we've seen everything in between, and even the types of businesses, right? You may think you're a product centric business and you're a service, and that may have very different economics. And that doesn't mean it's not a business worth building, but it may not have the kind of growth potential or return potential that we can get involved in. And we have to have those kinds of conversations, and those are all part of, I think, the collective community education that we also want to provide. And that could mean having one of our coaches or one of the key members of the team or one of our founders in here sharing those experiences, those stories, maybe even our conversations. So I think we're gonna end up having a lot of real-time pitches, real-time evaluations, and my goal is that we just be who we are. And I think, as we know, and you mentioned this earlier, we know we're not for everyone. We're looking for those who really orient to our values and our vision. And I think thus far, in the first few months that we've been here, we've seen, we're not for everyone, but we're not crazy. And there are a lot of people that really, and that's, I just want to say thanks to the community who's provided a tremendous amount of positive response and feedback. And I think we know we're on the right track. And I'm really excited about this first set of companies that we're involved with, and several more that, we're very close to getting to work with as well.
Yeah, I mean, even though not for everyone, it's almost seeing like everyone wants it, needs it, right? I mean, we've seen a ton of companies or ideas, and everyone loves it, and which is awesome. And by the way, when we see pitch decks, and I say decks in quotes because they're important, but I can't tell. I mean, how many times have we looked at the deck and we're like, okay, come back again, do some homework, instead of just being like a yes, fast, no, right? And some of these places, like, okay, you have 2 minutes to say what you want to say, pitch us, and be done. And I just don't get that model. I mean, either maybe I'm not that smart, but to be able to say, give me a full pitch, let me understand this. I mean, we spend a good 60 minutes, if not more, on each occasion with an individual that we want to dig deep. But once we're done, we either know A, there's something here, B, there's that we feel comfortable with, that we know we can scale quickly, B, we want to see if there's some loose ends, go back and do some homework, and let's see how you respond to that, and come back and let's talk about it. And it's been wonderful. But again, it's just like they've been trained. A lot of people have been trained. It's like, okay, here's my deck. And don't get me wrong, decks are key. And we're actually going to do some webinars and some talks about how to, build a great deck. But it's that engagement early on to understand if whether the deck's bad or whatnot doesn't mean that the founder's bad, right? It doesn't mean that the product's bad. It's maybe needs a little bit of TLC. And so I think it's been really interesting. We've been able to find some nuggets out of, if we would have said no, like everyone else in the first, go around without our background, I mean, we would have missed out on some pretty amazing
I agree.
People.
That's right. And that's, I think, the part that you and I really came together around as well, which is this, at the end of the day, this is about people.
It's all about people.
And what we really want to create is a platform here, starting here in Orange County, and we'll see where it goes from here. That is a place for people to grow, for people to collaborate, for people to solve big problems. And obviously, in the environment we're in right now, everyone's feeling the weight of some big global problems, and there will be many more that will come after this. We know that there are many that are already underway in the companies that we're working with, and we want to give them a place for that, and the support and the encouragement and the full knowledge that these things don't typically happen overnight, and you've got to persevere, and you need emotional support, and you need well-being, and you're going to have challenges, but you're going to get through it with the help of other people. And I think that's to me is huge, at the root of this. And I think we're going to spend a lot of time in the coming days and weeks talking about and with other folks here in the community about how we really look for the silver lining in this current challenge to build a stronger community on the other side, because that's ultimately what this is all about. Like, at the core of our human nature is this need to feel in community and part of a tribe, and a sense of belonging and purpose and meaning. And
at the same time,
that's what we're, that's where human achievement comes from.
Yeah. And come up with great ideas, build great companies, scale them. One of the things I love about what we're doing is also, it's not just business. It's not just, okay, Kyle comes in, pitches me, and it's Kyle, the business side. There's also the humanity, the human side, the emotion side, which drives a huge piece of whether that company's going to be successful or not. And we just want to be able to tap into that humanity side as well too, right? Is this the type of leader that can be a good leader? And if not, let's help them. Can they attract good talent? But also, how are they just on a human being level? Mm-hmm. Are they humble, right? Do they put others above themselves? Do they have grit? Because they're going to pivot, right? I mean, how many times said that? How many times have you been part of companies where it's like the product you thought you were going to start with is definitely not the product you went to market with?
That's right.
And that's a huge shift, right? And that happens over and over, right? I've been through this before. You're going to run out of money. You're going to have people who don't like you. You're going to have bad reviews. You're going to have good reviews, right? You're going to have all kinds of things, and you're going to have grit and perseverance. And if you don't have good character, you don't have a strong mindset, that will cause more issues than anything else. And so I think there's that emotional human side of it, that the EQ, emotional intelligence, that we really want to also help as well.
Yeah.
And so that's what's super fun about this. You get to know the people behind the stories, behind the problems, but at the same time, you get to kind of help cultivate that.
Yeah. Well, I have had just an absolute ball in the first few months here, and
what has it been? It's almost four months,
and we are just getting going. So
we just got our media room.
That's right. We got our media room, and
can't go far without a media room.
That's right. And want to say thank you to all the folks that have been helpful in getting this set up, and we'll get them in front of the camera here very soon. But a lot ahead for us here at OC4, and we welcome the input and the feedback. And this is
And what do
this
you want
is
to?
not the Carey and Kyle show.
Yeah.
I look at us as merely the conduits to really creating this opportunity for this amazing community of folks that we have the privilege of knowing, we have the privilege of getting to know, and we welcome any and all.
Yeah, and if you guys have any thoughts about what you want to hear about or questions, we're going to do a lot of different formats. Again, just like any type of product company, we want to iterate and we want to get better and better, and we want to listen. And so what
That's right.
ideas, thoughts you guys have, what you want to hear, who you want to hear from, we're going to have a lot of great stuff, including some real-time, real-life examples as the companies go through their journeys that we've been part of right now. Share their stories as well too. So yeah, thanks. Super excited. This is gonna be fun.